It was 3 a.m., and I was out on my dock, sipping black coffee, the kind that burns your throat just right. The lake was still, its ripples catching the moonlight like whispers. Then I saw Ida barbed, glinting monstrosity slicing through my private trail to the water. A brand-new fence, ugly as sin, stretched from the old shed to the lake's edge, topped with neon orange signs screaming, "Restricted access. Violators fined." It wasn't there yesterday. Now it stood there, padlocked, mocking me. My coffee went cold in my hand. I don't even live in their precious HOA, but they just made their biggest mistake. I didn't move at first, just stared, letting the anger simmer, steady, controlled. That fence wasn't just steel, and Wyrite was a declaration. We own this now. They probably thought I'd grumble, maybe fire off a whiny email, or slink back inside like a good little neighbor. They had no clue what I'd been planning. 3 months ago, I saw this coming out the fence exactly, but the attitude. The HOA president, Diane, had been sniffing around my property, dropping hints at meetings about communal lake access and trail security, smirking like she'd already won. My deed said the trail was mine, but she didn't care. So I set my trap. I've been walking that trail daily, GPS in my pocket, camera on my shoulder, logging every inch where their land ended and mine began. I took soil samples not because I needed them, but because it made Diane's minions twitch. I planted tiny yellow markers with cryptic notes. Let them think I was some paranoid nut. Then I filed a wildlife permit with the county, citing nesting turtles that used the trail. No one cared about those turtles before, but now they were protected by law. I kept my mouth shut and waited. At 6:10 a.m., I strolled down the path, each step deliberate, every inch mine. The gate didn't budge when I rattled it, bolts still wet with fresh cement. My neighbor Tom, walking his mud on the other side, gave me a sheepish shrug. "They worked all night," he mumbled. Diane called it an emergency beautification. Emergency, my ass. By 6:30, I was back home, digging through my drawer for spare locks, motion detectors, and a little gadget I cobbled together chunky, wired, legal, and oh so satisfying when triggered. By 6:45, I'd swapped their lock for mine. My Nalma, my que, my rides. Diane could huff and puff all she wanted to just lock herself out. At 7 o'clock, HOA VYC President Carl stormed up, sweat staining his collar, face red as a beet. "Why'd you tamper with our property?" he barked. I handed him my deed, highlighted, and pointed to the laminated wildlife permit stapled to a stake behind the fence. The county seal shut him up fast. He stammered about safety, but I just smiled. "See you in court, Carl. I'm looking forward to it." By 7:15, Diane called, skipping hello to rant about community standards. I cut her off. "You're trespassing, Diane." My cameras caught it all, and the sheriff's got the footage. Click. She hung up. By 8 o'clock, I was back on the dock, coffee number 2 in hand. The fence looked different now, not their VY Tory, but their blunder. A squirrel tried climbing it, slipped, and vanished into a bush. I laughed, loud and sharp. I needed that. But this wasn't about a fancy, it was about control, pride, and their assumption I'd roll over. They didn't know this land was my soul. Every tree, every rock, every inch of that trail meant something. My wife, Ellie, and I built this place before cancer stole her. She loved this lake, loved walking that trail barefoot at dawn. They never saw her here, but I did. She's why I wasn't backing down. At 9 o'clock, I heard a cordless saw whining through the trees. Diane's crew was bold, trying to cut my lock on my gate on my land. I didn't rush out. I sipped my coffee and let my 3 cameras, one in a tree, one under the dock, one on the gate stream straight to my lawyer's Dropbox. He was itching for a case like this. By 9:30, the saw stopped, and Carl was back, redder than before, with a clipboard-toting woman I didn't know and a kid in cargo shorts clutching a crowbar, trying to look tough. "Your VY OLADing HOA Statute 19.3, Carl puffed. I sipped slowly. "You can't enforce rules on land you don't own. Scratch that post, and I'll see you in court before the crowbar hits the dirt." The clipboard lady stifled a laugh. Carl ignored her, ranting about fairness. I pulled up the county assessor's map on my phone. Fairness? You're trespassing and VY OLADing an NVY environmental permit. I've got that documented too. The clipboard lady whispered to Carl, and his face fell. She'd seen the nesting clause I'd filed. That fence went up during peak nesting season for protected birds. One email to the county, and they'd be drowning in fines. By 10 o'clock, the crowbar kid ditched his tool and left, muttering about low pay. Clipboard lady followed, already dialing someone. At 11 o'clock, I called Deputy Ryan, my cousin's old Marine buddy. HOA tried to breach my gate, I said. Caught on camera. He chuckled. Want me out there? Not yet, I said. Let them dig deeper. At noon, an HOA email hit my inbox. All legal jargon about a boundary dispute and plans for a second fence. I laughed so hard I spilled my coffee. Doubling down? Perfect. I drafted a cease and desist letter, simple, sharp, packed with EVY scene, dropped copies at the HOA box, Carl's door, and Diane's porch with a sticky note. You should have asked first. At 2 p.m., a drone buzzed over my yarn-out mine. They were desperate, trying to map my trail. I stepped out with a baseball bat, pointed it just long enough to spook them, and watched it retreat. By 3 o'clock, my neighbor Agnes, tough as nails 70-something, brought pie and gossip. Diane had been telling folks I was unhinged, dangerous. Agnes told her to shut it or get sued. I'll testify, she winked. By 4 o'clock, my trap was fully sprung. The HOA had broken laws, ignored notices, tampered with my gate, and messed with a protected zone. I hadn't even fought back, yet just let them stumble into their own mess. Next morning, 6 a.m., I heard gravel crunch. Diane rolled up in a golf cart convoy. White cap on, clipboard out, like a suburban warlord. 2 new faces flanked her, plus a sleepy guy who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. They blocked my path, inches from my line. You've made this hostile, Diane snapped. The community's scared. I lean on the fence post. Scared I'll defend my land legally? A gel-haired guy, badge-reading, outreach coordinator Nate, stepped up, offering mediation if I remove my gate. I smirked. You see my deed, right? The permit? My notices? He blinked. Diane jumped in, ranting about my cameras, kids' safety, and spray paint on the trail. It was chalk, spelling private property in 4-foot letters, washed away by rain, but photographed by her minions. The HOA's Facebook group was buzzing. Folks were done with her. I looked at Diane. I've lived here longer than your HOA. I've fixed fences, pulled cars from ditches, donated to every fundraiser. You've turned this place into a prison with your fines and threats. Now you're mad someone pushed back. She waved her clipboard like a scepter. Nate handed me an envelopia formal notice to remove my gate or face legal action. I opened it, laughed. This is a community resolution, not law. You're suggesting trespassing on record now. Diane's face burned, but she stormed off. Nate lingered. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I shook my head. No, Nate. I'm making sure it doesn't get worse for everyone else. By 7 o'clock, I uploaded clips to a YouTube channel. Carl cutting my lock, Diane claiming my trail. Titled, HOA Fence Fiasco, Episode 1. It hit 10,000 VYUs by noon. Reddit loved it. This guy destroyed his HOA without lifting a finger. At 1 p.m., board member Frank, looking like he hadn't slept in days, handed me a folder. Inside were Diane's emails, manipulated votes, fake reports, HOA funds paying her nephew's company for my fence. At 3 o'clock, the county confirmed the fence VY OLAT nesting restrictions. By 5 o'clock, an inspector walked my trail, shook my hand. They didn't pull a permit. Fines could hit due lot 10,000. That night, I cracked a beer on the dock. The gate stood tall, glowing with solar lights I'd added for kicks. Diane thought I was a loner. She didn't know this was for Ellie, for the trail she loved. They tried to fence out my memories, but they were the ones trapped. Next day, 6:30 a.m., a crew was dismantling the fence. Diane stood by, arms crossed. We're MOVYing it back a few feet, goodwill, she shouted. I sipped my coffee. That's still trespassing, Diane. Nesting permits active. She glared. You've made yourself a target. I smiled. I already won. At 7:10, a county truck rolled up. The inspector filmed the crew, handed Diane a notice, removed the fence entirely. She lost. Idiot at the inspector, threatened lawsuits, dragged Nate into it. By 8:15, she sped off in her cart, dust trailing like a defeated parade. At 10 o'clock, the HOA's website posted a smear, Indie VY dual harassing members, VY OLADing safety. It backfired. Comments cheered me, legend. Where's the fence fund? A local blog ran a story. Man outsmarts HOA with legal trap. My VY Deo hit 50,000 VYUs. At 1 p.m., Carl showed up deflated. We didn't know about the permit. Diane thought she could waive it. She's losing support. By 2 o'clock, the HOA's Facebook group was chaos screenshots of Diane's shady budgets. Her nephews do law 12,000 fence deal. I uploaded episode 2. Diane dismissing permits, blaming me. It exploded. By 5 o'clock, neighbors brought ribs, offered to mow my lawn. That night, I sat under the stars, thinking of Ellie. 2 weeks ago, they locked me out. Now, half the neighborhood rallied behind me. At 6 a.m., an email arrived. HOA audit findings. Pages of fraud, do law 12,000 for my fence, no receipts. I dropped copies at the HOA box, Carl's door, and Diane's porch with a note. Page 7 will ruin your day. Martha, my pie-bringing ally, posted the audit online. Diane's denial email flopped, nobody bought it. At 11 o'clock, I walked into the county hearing, jeans and a collared shirt. Diane looked haggard. I laid out my deed, permit, footage, invoices, and played Diane saying, "We'll build it and deal with him later." Silence. An official grilled her. "You built on his land during nesting season with unapproved funds?" Diane mumbled. The county ordered the HOA to retract claims, restore the land, and apologize within 30 days or face escalating fines. By 3 p.m., a half-baked apology signed by Carl hit my inbox. Then came the news. Diane was ousted 74-3, replaced by Lisa, who emailed, "Let's fix this." Saturday, I hosted a lake barbecue. Kids ran the trail, families brought hot dogs, and Martha's banner read, "The gate that beat the HOA." We burned the last fence planks in a fire pit, country music blaring. Diane was gone, reportedly hiding in a new suburb, rejected by another HOA. At 6:55 a.m., I sat on the dock, coffee in hand, the Golden Gate beside me. The lake shimmered, quiet, like when Ellie and I bought this land 20 years ago. I'd wired that gate with precision, planned every move like chess. The HOA played checkers and lost. Lisa brought lemon bars and a retraction of all HOA claims, plus a proposal to end enforcement over non-member land. I just wanted peace, Ellie's peace. Her bench still sat by the trail, a brass plaque reading, "For Ellie, who loved the stillness." At 9 o'clock, Nate, the ex-coordinator, apologized, handing me a flash drive of Diane's shady dealings. I didn't need it. I withdrew my county complaint. I wasn't after lawsuits, just space. By 3 p.m., I screwed a sign to the gate that stood. The lake glowed orange at sunset, and Martha brought more pie. We talked birds, fishing life. The stars came out, and I touched the gate, thinking of Ellie. It was never a trap to keep me in it, kept the wrong people out. So what do you think? Was I too ruthless, or did Diane deserve every bit of it? Should I have sued for more, or was the barbecue VY Tory enough? Drop a comment, hit like if you're Team Gate, and subscribe for more stories where the little guy fights back. Let's hear your take. Would you have burned the fence or build a bigger one?